I wasn't that old, and so I can take the chance.
Go on. And how did this further? How did this deteriorate further? How long did this? How long were you able to?
From 19, I think it was 19, about 19. I think no. I think it was from 1942.
So it was really a matter of 3 or 4 years?
Yeah, till 1944.
Did you have any contact at all with your relatives in the United States?
No.
None at all?
None at all.
Then in 1944, what happened?
Well, in 1944, the Germans and the Hungarians were going to, I guess it was they needed more soldiers or something, so they took about 150 boys, and they were going to take another 3. So I went from door to door and telling them, go in the forest and fight. You won't come home when you go over there. And that day, I sent about 150 of them to go in the forest. And they had to go across the Danube River with the boat. And there was, on the other side, the Croatians, which were working against us. They really slaughtered the Serbs and the Gypsies there. So it was a fight, and half of them didn't get on the boat and came back. And they came back, and they were hiding in the corn. So there was one that had a few drinks and was coming home, and the Nazis were coming with the wagons and picked him up and take him and asking him questions, and he finally said something, so that was it.
And that was the one who literally turned?
Yes. He didn't have the intention, but he just said after they tortured him or something, and he said, I was the one, so.
So then, go on, what happened?
But see, in 1943, they took my first sister, and one of the Jewish girls, she was taken.
In 1943?
43, yes. There was a Serbian girl that lived with the Hungarian, the Nazis. I mean, she was running around and lived with them. And there was a home where usually they had in the homes, in that home they tried to open a store. In fact, when you get in the kitchen and you take off you have the boards over there, you take it, you walk down underneath.
To a cellar?
You get out, you get to another street that was all dug up. And then in one room they had we call it a chiffonniere. You know what a chiffonniere is. Okay, they had that, and when you open there, you go down, and the clothes are hanging, and you also go under the street. That was when my sister was first arrested and taken. And the Serbian girl, the agents were always entertaining her and buying her fur, and so there's always, you can find some like that. And they slept by us. I think 3 of them, they were sleeping by us that morning. They left, and they went. They just slept in the beds by us. We didn't have anything, but this home had it, and they went there, and the agents, I guess, watched them, the Nazis, whoever, and nobody came out of the store. It was a store just to, and when they came in there, they were beating the mother and the father and the one son, and as they were leaving, one of them coughed, and they heard it coming from the chiffonniere. What do they call it on English? I don't know, chiffonniere.
Dresser?
Yeah, something. It's clothes, and you open it.
Yeah. Clothes closet?
It's a big, you know how it is in Europe, what do they call them? So they threw a bomb down there, and meantime they killed, I think, 3 of the Nazis and the Hungarians, and they were all killed in there. And in the kitchen there was a wooden box where they have the wood to put them in the stove there. And the owner's son was there, and 2 other. Well, they didn't. The mother kept throwing the pillows there. In the evening, they got out and went back to the partisans, right? Then when my sister was arrested and this Jewish girl, they were taken. Because my sister was I was a little sick at that time, so she was doing more food. So one of them said, well, Christine was bringing us the food. So she was taken, and this Jewish girl. It was 1943. Then for a while we slowed down. We had to slow down. Then again, when they were, I don't know what month, one day, they were traveling to Novi Sad. And when you got to Novi Sad, if you were Jewish, you were Serbian, you were Gypsy, you couldn't live. The machine guns right there. The whole walls were everything of the blood.
Was this the city as you traveled to the city? Or
This is in a city. This is in a city going from Palanca to Novi Sad. Novi Sad is.
The machine guns were set up in the street.
As you come, you had to have a little card in your name, and they know if you're Serbian, Jewish, or Gypsy. The machine guns right there. You couldn't live.
You couldn't even go in.
No. There was right there, and I think it was, I don't know what winter or what. Then they came in Novi Sad. They came in Novi Sad, and they were coming from home to home and taking them. See, I wasn't there in that cities, but it went on for 3 days. And the Danube River was frozen. They broke the ice and they put them on the wagons. They weren't cars like now. And they put everybody in under the ice and they killed them. They put everybody under ice. Then someone went to Hungary, and Horthy Miklos stopped it. But it went for 3 days.
So this was the Germans taking people, cutting the ice of the Danube.
And the Hungarians, both. They worked together, because we had them both in our city.
And then they just put people into the
wagons, and then just broke the ice and put them under there. There was a woman that had her husband was, I think, in the forest fighting, and she had 5 sons. I think one was 14, 16, and something. They took the 5 sons or 4 sons and put them in the backyard, and they held her and they machine gunned them. That woman turned white the next day. And in Yugoslavia, I was visiting Yugoslavia, I don't know what year. I was there a few times now. They had a movie about that.
About the war.
Mm-hmm. She turned white. Her hair was gray right overnight.
So the atrocities were all over the Hungarians
and the Nazis. There were even between them fighting. This is ours, and they said this is ours. So, in fact, it was once Hungary's, but the Nazis wanted them. You know, they put their flag. So there were always 2 flags, the Nazis' flag and the Hungarian flag.
How did you get caught?
Well, like I said, that day when I mobilized these young youths and they had to run away, come back, half of them went and half came back, and there was one that had a few drinks. They gave him a few drinks, and he finally talked.
And then they came to your house?
They came to the home, and they took me and my sister. Well, first they took my dad, 1943, I think, and we never knew where he was. They took my baby brother. We didn't know about him. We knew one sister was taken. We never heard about no concentration camps. Like I said, we didn't have radios. We didn't know a concentration camp. So they took my sister, and then one brother was in the forest, right? So there was 2 of us left over. So they came and they took my sister and me.
Where did they take you?
First they took us in a city hall in Bačka Palanka. And they had about 60 of us. And we always talked that nobody's going to give anybody up. And special they won't give me that I was the one that collected the food and clothes and medicine. So we were beaten up there first, I think for 3 days. And then they let him go. They kept about 15 of us. And from there, I think after the 3rd day, they put us on a train. There was the trains for, for the animals. There's no windows. And we didn't know where we'd go. No, first we had to go, I don't know, the city. We had to walk. And then they put us on these trains. And all we know, I think it was in Budapest, the bridge or something, when they were bombing. And so they left us there, and the Nazis, the Hungarians left, and we were there in the trains. Well, they didn't touch. I guess they knew who we were or what. So then they took us in Hungary. We were, I don't know how they call it in English here. We were closed under the ground.
A cellar.
No, it wasn't a cellar. It was what they used to fight years and years ago. We used to call it tvrđava.
The caves.
It was, it's dark and you couldn't see it. We had one in Novi Sad in Yugoslavia too, like that. And it is underground. It's all sand, and you can see the ground with the grasses up everything, and that is underneath. So they had not only from different. There was about, I'd say about 1,000 of us from all from different cities. We were there, and then they took us, I think 10 at a time, and in an office over there. When they called my name, I had to sit there, and they had a little thing here, looked like a little phone. And she said, hold on to this, and I held on the phone. Well, that shook me. That was electricity. That shook me. They weren't asking you, what do I know, where's my brother? I said, no, I don't know. Where's your father? I don't know. They took my father. After the war, he came. He was someplace in France, a prisoner. My brother, baby brother, in Austria, in Linz. So they were asking questions. What kind of medicine did you take? Somebody must have said something. I don't know. I was just sewing. I was sewing for a few people. I had to have make a living because all the food that were from the farms and that had to go for the army. They leave you very little food. So that shook me. Then they tied me. I'm sitting on the floor. I'm tied here. I'm tied by my hands, and then there's a stick between my hands and this. So when they take the stick, they just turn you around like a ball. Then they take this little, whatever it is, and it's long, and they put it in your vagina inside, and it shakes you. It's electricity. It doesn't kill you.
Just enough to hurt.
Yeah. And I don't know, where's your brother? I don't know what kind of food. No, I don't, and I just didn't say. I would give about 60, 70. They'd have to be taken if I said a word. And I just said I didn't know. Then you're sitting. Then they have I don't know if you know about it. It's the police had and the gendarmes had it. It's like a rubber like this here.
A rubber stick.
Yeah, and you're going on this hand, and this hands are this big, and then on your down like this. And that went on for about 3. Then they take you and throw a bucket of water where you're unconscious and you put you back. Then they call my sister. Then they call the other one.
Then you were taken, when you were taken, your sister was taken at the same time?
Yes, one of my sisters.
And were there other friends of yours at
the
same time?
There were about, I think, 80 of us.
And so you walked from your city to the train to another town to...
We walked for about, I think, 20 miles first from our city.
And then you were put on the cars, on the train cars.
On the train cars, and we went to Hungary.
And you went into Hungary, and that was Budapest? Or near?
I really don't know. I can't tell you because they didn't tell us where. I only know it was someplace in Hungary.
And there, then you were taken off the train.
And we were there, and that went on, I think, for 4 days. And we couldn't, and then they had to wait. We couldn't even step on our foot or anything. And then they took us on the trains, again in those trains that are closed. And we never heard about a concentration camp or anything. No radio or anything. So they took us to, we went, I think we stopped, the first stop at Linz.
Austria.
Austria, that's right. Then we went, and the next stop was Flossenburg. Then we knew something is going to happen to us. There was a big spinning wheel, great big one. I think there were about 9 or 10 men nude on it, and they're, I guess, frozen. It was turning around.
This was on the side of the road, or?
No, that was in a concentration camp.
In the concentration.
Flossenburg. That's where we went first. We were registered at Flossenburg first.
Flossenburg.
Flossenburg.
And these men were on this spinning wheel?
It was a round, big spinning wheel, and they're nude. They're on their stomach, and that wheel is turning. I guess they were frozen already. And then we knew something, because we never heard no camps, or we didn't know where they're taking us. We didn't have no radios or anything. So then we were there, I don't know, 5 or 6 days. Then they put us back on the...
What happened in Florida?